Hello everyone, this is my review of the Lenovo X230 tablet. As you guys can clearly see, I've been playing Pokemon Go. I'm actually a Team Mystic player. Don't hate me, I picked the team randomly, and let's go ahead and we'll get started. Probably wondering why I ended up buying this laptop when I already had the Latitude 3540. To be perfectly honest with you, I actually ended up getting swept up in all of the Surface Pro Pro 4 marketing, particularly with the Wacom stylus and touchscreen features that Surface Pro 4 had. It was really cool because you could actually go in and you could search after drawing or taking notes with the pen, and then OneNote is actually smart enough to go in and do an index search of all of your notes that you've had in that OneNote notebook. The other thing that I wanted was as far as like an everyday carry goes, the Latitude 3540 is great for a gaming notebook, but if I'm going to and from work and then class and back home again, I don't necessarily need that gaming capability. And not only that, it's a 15.6-inch laptop. This is a 12-inch screen. This is a little bit easier to carry than the Latitude 3540. On top of that, I wanted something out of the Surface Pro line that was actually easily upgradable, whereas the Surface Pro was not. It's actually the Surface Pro 4, 3, 2, and all of those. They're actually one of the worst things to take apart if you ever need to make any type of repairs or upgrades. With something like this, it's easy enough for me to just remove the battery, remove memory and upgrade, remove the hard drive, whatever I want to do. It's easy enough. Big panels for me to just kind of unscrew and take apart as well, so it's not really that bad to upgrade. And let's say a year and a half from now when the battery wears out, it's easy enough for me to just order one online, pop it out, swap it out, and I'll be good in under 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and we'll take a quick walk around the laptop itself. Up at the top, you really don't have much. It's just some Lenovo branding. This is actually built into the panel itself. These two are obviously stickers. In the front right here, you actually have two notches for the docking station, and I actually did end up buying a docking station. We'll go into more of those details afterwards, though. Looking at the right side of the laptop, you have an SD card reader. You have a USB. Oh, it's not focusing. There. Hold on. There we go. You have a USB always on 2.0 port. Basically what this is if you were to turn your laptop off, and let's say in the middle of the night you have a phone that you need to charge, you can actually plug it into this port, and it will still pass current through that cable and charge your electronic even though the laptop itself is off. Over here you have a Gigabit Ethernet jack, and audio, and it's a microphone headphone jack combo. You have the hard drive. You have the port for the Wacom pen / stylus, and you have a Kensington port. On the back itself, you have the removable battery, and you also have the AC port. Over here, you have some cooling vents. There we go. So, batteries removable. On the left-hand side, you have more cooling vents, two USB 3.0 ports, VGA Displayport. This is full-size Displayport. A Expresscard. No, I think that's PCMCIA. I think. Whatever that is, and also the switch for the wireless and Bluetooth as well. Along the bottom, you don't really have much. You have the RAM slot, You have the docking station port, and that's really about it as far as I/O goes. This is the keyboard. I've actually upgraded to a backlit one. I have the non-backlit one, which this thing originally came with. It's actually really nice. They've thought this through. The touchpad is not ginormous, but it's actually it actually reads your movements pretty well. Now, since I've gone through and had this thing repaired, I don't have any more of the Core i5 stickers or whatever on this thing anymore. These are actually brand new panels that Lenovo was nice enough to replace with the warranty. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the description, I'm going to put all the specs of this laptop as I bought it and also as I've upgraded in the bottom description of this video here. Long story short, I basically went ahead and replaced the original 500 gig spinning drive that it came with a 128 gig SSD that I had laying around, and I also popped in an SATA SSD from Samsung that's 256 gig that I use to boot Linux with, and the 120 gig SSD boots Windows currently. One other thing that I should note that I already mentioned before is I actually replaced the original keyboard with a backlit one, and I'll go into more depth on the two differences between the keyboards in a minute. So you guys are probably wondering how a 4-year-old machine like this performs with an updated operating system, running Windows 10, and also all of the new Steam games that are currently running. Well, for sure, gaming is obviously not going to be in this little computer's realm of possibilities, but it is able to handle some of the lighter Steam games that are out there. But let's go ahead and we'll get started. The first thing I'd like to cover is going to be the boot up time. This is running Windows 10 with a 120 gig SanDisk SSD. It is their it's a SATA 3 SSD, but it's not obviously their highest end SSD. Let's go ahead and we'll get started. I do have some OS optimizations that I've done to this thing to kind of lighten up the load of Windows 10. So 15 seconds for the login screen. I just swipe my thumb, and we'll go ahead and we'll see how much longer this takes. So just under 27 seconds for the login screen. Let's go ahead and we'll see how long it takes to shut this thing down. So it's just under 10 seconds to go ahead and shut this laptop down. It's already completely off. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here so I can edit it and move it on to the next part, which is day-to-day performance. So as far as performance goes on this laptop, I think you guys will end up finding that even though it's a 4-year-old laptop, you're not going to have a whole lot of hiccups with day-to-day activities, particularly just web browsing, Word, Excel, homework, anything like that. It should run just fine. Just sitting here right now without anything running, you can see CPU utilization is really low. Memory is nowhere near the 8 gigabyte threshold that I have in here. Disk utilization is low. I do have an SSD in there to help with the boot time, as you guys saw. Over here, this is my second hard drive that I have Ubuntu Linux running on. So let's go ahead and we'll fire up a few applications that you'd normally have running on a standard day-to-day operation. Google Chrome, for example. We'll see how CNN loads up. I mean, there's a slight pause in there for things coming up, but it's nothing terrible. It's definitely usable. And This is coming up just fine. Media Player Classic. Let's see. We'll fire up Steam. And right now we're looking at the CPU utilization is definitely starting to go up a little bit after firing up Steam. So is RAM utilization. But this machine is by no means getting taxed at all. If I wanted to, I could have a second hard drive in there. Or no, I'm sorry, a second desktop in there for multitasking, but I really have no need for that right now. So let's go ahead and we'll fire up Kindle. Oh, that started to spike the CPU a little bit. I'll also open up antivirus. I haven't updated it according to Kaspersky in a little while, but everything seems to be running fine. Oh, we got an update on Kindle. That would explain why. And once that's done, the CPU utilization should stop going crazy. And I'm running an update on this too. But things are fairly snappy, even with all this stuff going. And to be honest with you, it definitely multitasks better than my Latitude 3540 that has a ULV chip inside. The only thing that the Latitude 3540 will do better is gaming because of the dedicated GPU on the inside. Microsoft Project Access, which, no, we're not going to create a database. And we also got this little software equalizer here, but everything's working good so far. I mean, there's no hiccups or anything like that with multitasking. Got all this stuff open, and we can just open up a whole bunch of tabs. Fire up a YouTube video.
Question 6 on the practice exam is a statistical process control question, and we'll calculate our
and we don't really have too many issues. So I think that does it for the day-to-day operations. Let's go ahead and we'll move on to
15 minutes on average.
Gaming, but I think it's pretty clear that day-to-day operations this laptop is not going to have any problems with. You could even have a much older laptop and not have any issues with day-to-day operations, just because it's gotten so, computers today have gotten just so well at handling standard workload. Operating systems don't take up as much memory as they used to, and in comparison to Windows Vista, for example, this system's running actually pretty well. CPU utilization is getting high because we've got a whole bunch of things going on, but I think if you were to buy this laptop solely for day-to-day operations, I don't think you'll have any issues at all. So as far as gaming performance goes, let's go ahead and we'll get started with my personal favorite, Dota 2. This is what I have been addicted on since the game itself came out. I've been playing this pretty much exclusively. So performance-wise, we're looking at about 46 frames per second at the loading screen. This is with maximum performance settings on the power. So if we go over here, I also have antivirus and all those other things disabled right now for the sake of this video. Let's go ahead and we'll play a bot game, and let's just see how well this thing performs. Keep in mind, this is a 4-year-old machine running Intel, I think it's the 4000 series integrated graphics. So you're not going to be able to get super high FPS out of this like I do with my Latitude 3540. As far as the game settings goes, this is what I have it on right now. So it's exclusive full screen. It's running in 1366 by 768. I have the render quality up all the way, but everything else is off just to make the frame rate somewhat playable. And this is what I am getting. Right now we're still looking. This is definitely playable. It's not that if you were to go out on like a business trip or something like this and this is all that you had, it's definitely playable. I mean, you'd have to turn off all of the other services and other stuff like that that runs in the background that takes away from the CPU, but it's not running too bad. Heat wise, it's getting pretty toasty right off of the vents, but the keyboard itself I don't feel anything on right now. Right, so let's just go ahead and we'll play for a couple of minutes just to see how performance on this is once you start going. I took the rune. Of course, playing on my Logitech G502. Love this mouse. Yeah, I know I suck at this game. But we're looking at about 40 frames per second. And right about now you can actually see that things are getting a little bit choppy. Still playable, but I think what's going to happen is once you start getting into like the big team fights where you have all the little effects and everything going on the screen, this laptop is just going to slow down and you're not going to be able to do anything on this. Which I think we all already knew that this thing is not a gaming laptop by any means. See if I can kill him. Nice. So I think that's about it for Dota 2. We're looking at about an average of 40 frames per second at 1366 by 768 with very, very conservative settings. And of course, if you don't have anything else to render in the game, I mean, you can see that the frames per second is kind of going up here. It's going. So next up, as far as gaming performance goes, we have Counter-Strike Source. I don't have CSGO on here installed because I don't have enough space on my hard drive, I don't think. But this will kind of give you an idea. You guys saw how Dota 2 ran. It's definitely not going to run Counter-Strike Source, or I mean Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now here, we get to kind of see the, let's see, so turn this up all the way, we'll go to advanced, and let's just turn everything up and see how this does. Yeah, we'll leave all of that. Turn on bloom. Alright, so you guys just saw the video settings here. It's sitting in native resolution. These are my settings for the game. And let's just go ahead and we'll run the video stress test. Wow, it's actually doing really good. over 100 frames per second. I may end up running it again with the full slew of settings on this game afterwards, just to see how it does. But this will run CS Source, as with most games out there. CS Source is really old at this point, but it's still a really good game. Kind of gives you an idea of what this laptop can actually handle, though, as far as gaming performance goes. Like I said before, this is by no means a gaming laptop at all. But we're staying well over 100 frames per second. You can't complain with something like this. Almost 200 actually. So after something like this, 152 frames per second, I'm going to go and turn everything up. And we're going to see how this does, except for VSync. I'm going to turn on the bloom effect. And we're going to try it again. So this time, much less frames per second. We're getting around 40 to 50. If I were to play this game, I would most likely run it with the prior settings instead of this one, because the higher frames per second, the better you'll get. But it's not doing too bad right now. If you look at all the you got all the water going on in there and the lighting and stuff. And we're back up to 100 frames per second. So let's see what the average, 63 frames per second, that's what the average is. So with those settings, we're not doing too bad at all. Okay, so now we got the Stanley Parable up and running. And looking at this, we're at 1366 by 768. Medium settings. I tried to turn it up to high. I was getting like 20 frames, 30 frames per second. No anti-aliasing, trilinear filtering, no vertical sync, of course. And this is what we get. So we're getting 100 some odd frames per second. The game's actually running pretty well. I don't think I can jump in this game. I don't think so either. Oh well. So you guys can kind of see everything is running pretty well. And the game itself does not get much more graphics intensive than this. There really is not much gameplay for us to choose from that I can actually install on this laptop and run at a decent frame rate. Let me know in the comment section if you guys want me to see, or if you guys want me to try to install anything else. I can try to squeeze some room on here. Forget about gaming on Linux right now, although Steam itself does run. What ends up happening is you get about half the frames per second because Linux itself, I don't think, can. Graphics drivers basically just aren't there for this. And let's see, still doing really good, well over 60 frames per second. Oh, I'm dead. Alright, well that about does it for the gaming portion of this review. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. As what I like about this laptop and what really drew me to it, first and foremost is the upgradability and the easily available or the easily obtainable parts that are out there on the internet. For example, if I wanted to swap out, and I'll show you guys this really quick, this is what actually came with the laptop out of the box. This is a non-backlit keyboard, and I was able to easily swap it out with a backlit keyboard because all of those options are available on this and the parts are readily available. A little bit about this keyboard actually on a side note, the non-tactile or the non-backlit keyboard is more tactile than the backlit one. The backlit one is just like a straight linear, there's no bump or anything. Here there's a little tactile bump. Anyways, parts are readily available. They're also easy to swap out as well. Nothing is like working on any of the Surface Pro series, which was one of the things I was afraid of. If I had to take something apart, it would be a nightmare because I'd have to work and get the screen off and then get to the other components. The other thing that I like about this laptop, and I'm going to go ahead and shut this off to demonstrate this, is that the battery itself is actually removable. And this is something that you'll get with most new electronics, where the battery itself is starting to become built in again. And that to me is actually really, really annoying because it's pretty effortless for me to swap out a new battery and keep a spare one with me if I am on the road or I need to just get a little bit more battery life. Let's say I work all day with this and then I have to go to class. Well, the battery might not be in the best condition once I'm in class. I might have only like 10% left. So I can swap out that battery and I'll be good to go again. Whereas with some of the newer laptops out there, everything is already built in. You need a screwdriver to get to it. It's actually the main reason why I also went with, and you guys will see another video about this, but my LG V10, it has a removable battery, and that's one of the main reasons why I ended up purchasing it. The other thing that I like about this is both keyboards on this laptop are great to use. Both the non-backlit one and the backlit one. By default, I do have the backlit one already installed on this just because it's more convenient. I can actually see when... Here, let me loosen up the camera here. I can actually see when I'm typing in the dark or even in a dimly lit room. It just makes things a whole lot nicer. And it's something that I actually, all of my other laptops I have not had before. We'll pause for the first half of the pros. The next thing that I like about this laptop, and this is actually the main reason why I ended up buying this, was the Wacom stylus, touch digitizer on the screen, and also the OneNote functionality of it. I'm not an artist by any means, so I don't draw or anything like that, but when you have a math class, for example, and you have diagrams like this, this is not something that you'll be able to easily emulate with a regular laptop. You have a keyboard, you have a mouse, and you can't draw diagrams like this very easily or quickly when you're sitting in the middle of class. With this, you absolutely can. I can draw and I can take notes and then I can go back and I can erase and do whatever it is that I want. The other thing that's really, really good about this as well is I can go back and search handwritten notes. Notice I searched example into here and this actually brought up a handwritten note. This is absolutely awesome for students out there or for any of those you guys who like to take handwritten notes versus just typing them out. This is a very, very handy tool and the main reason why I ended up buying this laptop. I am an IT student right now. I'm still working through getting my 4-year degree, so math classes are definitely something that I'm going to have to get used to. along with anything else that I'll have to take notes for, and this laptop's just going to be great for that. So we'll go ahead and we'll shove that back in. The other thing that I like about this laptop is the fact that, and I've already covered this earlier, it comes with a fully blown mobile version of the CPU instead of just a ULV chip. So for those of you who don't know, ULV is ultra low voltage, and it's Intel's version of a scaled down version of the CPU so that you can fit it into a thinner package. For example, Ultrabooks. All of those will come with a ULV CPU. And the trade-off there is you are trading off performance for a thin and light form factor that does not get as hot, or that you do not need as much cooling for as you would with something like this. This laptop is by no means a light laptop. I mean, it's pretty thick. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the lighting so that you guys can see, but it's pretty thick. It is not the lightest thing in the world, but performance-wise, as far as multitasking goes, you really can't beat it. The other thing that I like about this laptop as well is the optional docking station that this comes with. So this is the docking station. You got your little switch to remove it. Back here you got a whole bunch of ports. I don't know what type of USBs these are over here, but you got 4 additional USB ports, your headphone, microphone separate, VGA Displayport, Gigabit Ethernet, and your power back here. Over here I have an optional DVD drive bay if I really wanted to pop something like that in there, which I really don't. I don't have any need for that. But what's nice about this is I can just dock the laptop and not have to worry about, yeah, I'm getting a little error because it's not plugged in. And not have to worry about unplugging a whole bunch of USB cables, unplugging a whole bunch of video cables. All I would do is just undock it and off I go. The next thing that I like about this is the build quality. We'll go ahead and we'll pause this video and I'll go ahead and talk more about that in a minute. Now, the other thing that I like about this laptop is the build quality. There are certain gripes that I do have with this, but overall, it's a ThinkPad, so I am completely fine with tossing this thing in my backpack and not having to worry about any panels getting broken off. Even if I'm pretty abusive with my laptop bag, I don't have to worry about anything breaking with this. It's pretty solid. The only thing that, well, we'll get into more of the build quality issues afterwards, but the thing itself feels really solid. I don't have to worry about the, sorry about bumping the camera, the screen getting damaged because this bezel itself is so thick. I don't have to worry about any of my other I/O or anything breaking off because you have these thick plastic panels protecting it. So overall, as far as longevity goes, I am a fan of the Lenovo ThinkPad build quality. One other thing that I like about this as well is the fingerprint scanner on this. So if I swipe my thumb, I can actually log into my machine with it, but it's actually off right now, so let me go ahead and we'll turn it on. So the last thing that I have here is a pro for the machine is going to be the fingerprint reader. Now, it is by no means the iris scanner that you get on any of the Surface Pro devices, or even anything that comes with any of the newer cell phones, for example, the iPhone or the LG V10 or any of the new Samsung devices where you just have to hold your thumb and it'll automatically read it. But this thing is the most accurate thumbprint reader that I've worked with, because even with any of those other cell phone ones, sometimes you will end up getting like a few misreads. This, every single time I've done it, won't let me log off. Oh well, we'll just do this. Every single time I've swiped my thumb on this, it has been 100% accurate. So I haven't had any issues with this so far. Now let's go ahead and we'll wait for this to come back up. We'll do one more swipe just to prove my point, and then we'll move on to the next part of the video, which is going to be what I don't like about the laptop. So as you guys can see, laptop is up. Swiping my thumbprint, and it knows it's me. To the part of the video where I talk about the things that I don't like. This is more of a nitpicky thing, but this screen only rotates one way. If you look at the arrow, you can only turn it to the left to convert it into the tablet mode. You cannot turn it it won't go this way. Basically, there's a little bit of flex, but not a whole lot to where you can turn it. One of the other things that I don't like about this, and if for those of you guys who are looking at using this as a Surface Pro replacement, this laptop is far too heavy to be used as a straight up tablet. It is okay for the first few minutes, but it's a fairly heavy laptop. I don't know exactly how much this weighs. I probably should have looked it up before recording, but this is far too heavy for any type of one-handed operation. Your wrist will get tired no matter how big and buff you are. You're not going to be able to use this thing as a laptop full time. Sitting here resting on the table, it isn't too bad. My god, that glare is terrible. I'm going to turn this off. Sitting here resting on the laptop is not too bad, or on the table, I'm sorry. But once you start floating in midair with this, you're not going to be able to carry this thing for a super long period of time. The other thing that I dislike about this laptop is there are certain gripes that I have with the build quality. And part of this may be because I bought a refurb laptop. But if you take a look, like I slide this thing around, the screen will tend to wobble more than I'd like it to in a premium laptop. You got to remember, buying this thing new out of the box, this thing was well over $1,000. It was, I think, $1,500. And then it just kind of went up from there depending on what your add-ons were through the Lenovo. So the hinge itself feels actually really solid, but the fact that the screen itself does tend to bounce a little bit, something that I'm not a huge fan of. One of the other things too, and I don't know if you guys can see that, or you can definitely hear it, but this chassis itself does not sit flush with the table. So if I just press down on it, you can hear that it's got a slight bit of wobble sitting here on the table. So that's one of the things that I don't like. Other than that, the build quality itself is very solid. It's just those little nuances that I think Lenovo could have worked out to get this machine up to, like, you know, build quality wise, to where it was like perfect. But overall, I can't complain. I've used this thing for a little over 9 months, tossed it in my backpack, took it to and from work to school, back home, and on a few trips as well. This thing held up really, really well for me. One of the last things that I don't like is, and this is strictly from buying refurb or buying a secondhand laptop, is there's a ton of repairs that I've had to bring this thing in for. And if you're going to buy anything, make sure that you get something that's, I'm going to stop the video here. Last thing that I have to complain about with this laptop, and this is strictly from buying refurbished or secondhand laptop, is that I have had to bring this thing in for Lenovo repair multiple times. So if you're going to buy anything used like this, especially a business class laptop, you always have the option of having, not always, but many times you'll have the option of getting one with a warranty. If you can, please make sure you do that, because if I had to pay for all the repairs that I've had done to this thing out of pocket, it would not have been worth it for me to buy this thing. I've had the screen replaced, I've had the hinge itself replaced, I've had the AC port replaced. Now the screen itself, I had an issue where it actually went corrupt, and I had these annoying vertical bands on the screen where it kind of looked like it's just static basically. I'm going to adjust the camera in just a minute here. But I've had that replaced. I've had the motherboard replaced because of broken USB ports where the ports itself would cut in and out, because that little plastic part that comes out of the USB port in there with the little thing that reads everything, that part was actually loose and got broken off. One other thing, I think this will be the last repair I end up having to send it in for, but the SD card reader here actually does not work. If you try to put an SD card in, it's actually just going to jam. But if you take a look at all of the parts out there for the x230 tablet and what I have spent on a warranty, which was I think about $150, it was well worth the cost of all the parts to get this thing to a well-working state, especially the screen, especially the motherboard. Yes, I can replace the parts myself, but to source the parts, to go out and buy them, that would have been a nightmare, and it would have gone well over the cost of the warranty itself. So if you are buying anything like this secondhand, either make sure that you have a easily available, cheap way of getting parts, or just make sure that you get a sort of warranty with it so that you can send it back to the manufacturer if you have any type of issues. But that's it for my review and my opinions on the x230 tablet. Let me know if you guys have any questions so far. One other thing I may end up doing in the future is I may end up getting 16 gigs of RAM, and I also may end up getting a larger SSD, but those are just something that I may look into for the future. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.